How many opportunities have you missed because you were too afraid to speak up? Too timid to take action? Too worried about what people would say? Maybe you kept quiet while your boss mistreated you, or you let someone take advantage of your kindness because you didn't want to offend them, or you avoided going after something you really wanted because you were scared of failing. I know that feeling because I lived it. And the truth is, fear isn't always loud. It often shows up quietly, through hesitation, through silence, through avoidance. But here's the good news. 3 qualities, faith, courage, and boldness, can break you out of that cage. And if you stick with me through this video, you will not only understand them, but you will also know how to apply them starting today. For a long time, I was timid. I avoided confrontation at all costs. I thought I was protecting myself, but in reality, I was just shrinking. I agreed to things I didn't want to do just to please people. I tolerated disrespect. I allowed people to take advantage of me, and instead of speaking up, I stayed silent. But keeping quiet wasn't peace, as I thought. It was slavery. People mistreated me because they knew I wouldn't fight back. Friends crossed my boundaries because I wouldn't say no. Even at work, I allowed situations where I should have spoken up, and I watched opportunities pass me by. You know what? Timidity has a cost, and it's higher than most people realize. Timidity can cost you relationships because people can't respect what you never express. It can cost you opportunities because doors only open when you knock. It can cost you your self-respect because deep down, you know when you've settled for less, and sometimes you lose yourself. A lot of people today are oppressed, not because they don't know what's right, but because they lack the courage to stand up for it. At work, some people endure mistreatment from bosses and colleagues who undervalue them simply because they are afraid to speak up. Students get bullied at school and never say a word, not because the bully is stronger, but because fear has silenced them. Even in families and relationships, voices are silenced and manipulation goes unchecked because timidity keeps people quiet. And the painful part, people recognize your silence. Some will even use it to their advantage. They know you won't resist. They know you won't confront. So they push further and further until your spirit shrinks. Timidity does not protect you. It chains you. And the longer you live timid, the more you teach others that it's okay to mistreat you. If that sounds familiar, don't feel condemned. Feel challenged. Because the truth is, you can change this. And that's where faith, courage, and boldness come in. So the first key, faith. Faith is believing, even when there's no proof yet. It's believing in yourself, believing in your potentials, believing that what you dream can actually happen. You see, without faith, courage has no ground to stand because faith is what whispers, "It's possible," when everything around you says it's not. Take Thomas Edison. His history tells us he failed more than 1,000 times trying to invent the light bulb. Imagine the voices he must have heard. "You're wasting your time, you're a failure." But Edison had faith, not just in electricity, but in his ability to figure it out. That faith lit up the world. Or look at Nelson Mandela. 27 years in prison, nearly 3 decades of silence, isolation, and waiting. Yet, Mandela's faith in freedom, equality, and justice never died. That faith carried him until the day he walked free and eventually became president of South Africa. Faith doesn't erase obstacles. It gives you strength to keep going in spite of them. So here's something practical. Next time your mind asks, what if I fail? Flip the question. Ask yourself, what if I succeed? Because faith shifts your perspective from limitation to possibility. Now let's talk about courage. Courage is taking the first step, even when you're afraid. It's not the absence of fear. It's action in spite of fear. So many people stay quiet because they think courage means feeling fearless. No. Courage means your knees are shaking, your heart is pounding, but you still take the step. Think about Rosa Parks. She refused to give up her seat on the bus. It wasn't just a small act. It was an act of courage that helped spark the civil rights movement. She had no guarantee of safety. She had no idea what the outcome would be, but she acted anyway. That's courage. Or back to Thomas Edison. Beyond the experiment, his courage showed up in the ridicule he faced. Imagine failing hundreds of times in front of others. Imagine being laughed at, yet he showed up the next day and tried again. That's courage. Not because fear was absent, but because persistence was stronger. Courage is taking the first step, even when you don't know where the staircase leads. Courage is saying no when someone tries to manipulate you. Courage is asking for that promotion even when you doubt yourself. Courage is leaving that toxic relationship even if it means starting over alone. Now, take one thing you've been avoiding out of fear and do it. Have the tough conversation. Apply for that opportunity. Stand up for yourself. Every small act of courage builds your courage muscles. And finally, boldness. If faith is belief and courage is taking the step, then boldness is living it out loud, unapologetically. Take Martin Luther King Jr. It wasn't just courage that made him march. It was boldness that made him proclaim, "I have a dream," in front of thousands. He didn't just act quietly. He declared a vision that changed history in a time when speaking up was dangerous. Here is where most people get stuck. You've taken small steps. You've built courage. But then you start worrying again. What will people think? Will they call me arrogant? Will they say I have changed? Hear me. People will always test your limits. If you let them, they will keep pressing on your weakness. When I first started speaking up, some people called me rude. Others said I had changed. Yes, they were right. I was no longer silent, no longer trapped by fear, no longer easy to manipulate. I refused to shrink so others can feel comfortable. So here's my practical step for you. Stop apologizing for existing. Express your truth with confidence. Say no without guilt. Remember, boldness is what commands respect. And the truth is, people may resist it at first, but they will eventually respect it. So here's the beautiful path. Once you develop faith, courage, and boldness, you stop being controlled by fear. You stop letting fear and timidity dictate your choices. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You stop waiting for perfect conditions that will never come. So, would you finally start that business? Take that course? Walk away from that toxic relationship? Speak your truth without fear? Just imagine your life 1 year from now if you believed in yourself, acted on your fears, and lived boldly. This is the fearless life, and it's not reserved for special people. It's available to anyone willing to begin. So let me ask you, which of these three do you need the most right now? Faith, courage, or boldness? Type it in the comments. Let's build each other up. And if this message spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to stop living timid and start living bold. And if you're ready to stop living timid and start living bold, hit the subscribe button. Remember, fear is normal, but living in fear is a choice. And today, you can choose differently. I'll see you in my next video.